Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. When you are enjoying some good music and you're reading and doing some things, you can lose track of time. And so today I'm 3 minutes and 30 seconds late to the show, but it's okay because this is the way it works. Here we are, day 10, 10 days. 10 days is not a small thing. You understand that most research shows that after 21 days, something can be more solidified in our lives. Day 10, man, you're almost halfway there. Today, I want to teach something that I think is one of the most clarifying and ultimately liberating frameworks I carry. Because once you can see the architecture of a false self, that's the structural elements that compose it, the purposes it serves, and the way it gets maintained, I think you'll stop experiencing it as just who you are and you start experiencing it as a construction. Okay. And constructions can be examined, changed, modified, and honestly allowed to become something truer. So let me teach you this carefully. The false self is and the false self is not. Okay. First, the false self is not a lie. It's not a performance that you choose to run in bad faith. It's not evidence that you're broken or deceptive, or even spiritually deficient, which is what I have heard a lot. The false self is a survival structure. It was built usually early in life, childhood mainly, usually in response to real pressures and real relationships, environments that in order to protect the actual self from what felt like danger, or judgment, rejection, the loss of belonging, and ultimately the loss of worthiness. And the deeper part of that is the loss of love. The false self is the answer to a question that most children face before they have the resources to answer it. On So now I've got something playing here. This is what live looks like. You never know what's going to happen. But anyway, so what I was saying there is that before most children can have the answer honestly, or the resources, or the ability to answer it honestly, the 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 question is, who do I have to be in order to be safe here? Because there's a sense in which safety is tied to love, right? Because to be loved is to feel safe, to feel wanted, to feel needed, to feel appreciated, to feel seen. And there's a lot of times where you probably can understand you don't feel that. So in order to be loved here, who do I have to be? How do I have to show up in order to belong? See, and whatever the answer was, whatever identity, whatever role, way of being made that environment feel safer, that becomes the first layer of the false self. It built in love, in a manner of speaking, built for survival, but it's built around an exterior requirement rather than an interior reality. So over time, layers are added, and the performance that started as a survival adaptation becomes habit. And then habit becomes identity, right? So the identity becomes who you believe you are. And the actual self, the one that was there before any of this was necessary, is just buried under the architecture. So that's sort of why I'm dealing with it this way. And that's what we're excavating. We're digging that up. We're going to discover that. And so when I talk about layers, let me talk you through, or walk you through very briefly, the typical layers of the false self, because seeing them named can help you locate your own. The outermost layer is role, the identities we perform. For me, it was pastor, provider, the strong one, the one who knows what to do, the one who keeps us cool, the one who might have the answers. The roles have real functions. They're not completely false, but they become false when they are maintained as totalities, when the role becomes the whole story rather than one expression of a much larger self. All right. So the next layer is in gosh, I'm trying to, I've got the 8 masks. Let me just break it down in some broader senses. So the next layer is narrative. So the stories we tell about ourselves, okay, the stories we tell about others, the stories that we talk about in our conscious or subconscious that maintain the role. So I'm the kind of person who doesn't need help. All right. I've always been resilient. I'm not someone who complains. These are narratives, and these narratives are spoken architecture of the false self. They're enforced consistently even when the experience contradicts them. So deeper still are the invisible contracts that we've talked about earlier in the series, like day 2, I think. So the unspoken agreements that govern behavior from underneath the narrative. If I'm strong, I'm loved. If I don't need anything, I'm going to be safe. See, these are structural, load-bearing walls of the false self, the ones that are the hardest to see because they feel most like reality. And at the center, the place most people never reach through ordinary means is what I call the installed belief, the core conviction. And these things are formed very early on in life, very early in experience, that the actual self is somehow not enough, not lovable as it is in reality, not safe to express as it actually is. This is the seed from which everything else grows. So my false self was built around competence. If I'm always the most prepared, the most articulate, the one who has thought it through the furthest, then I earn my place. Then I'm irreplaceable. Then I'm the very thing that I feared most, being exposed as insufficient, being found out, won't happen, right? What do you call it? The imposter syndrome. Even if I had extreme mastery over an issue or absolute knowledge over something, it was always fearful, like maybe I don't know. So I built that structure so thoroughly that for years, I literally could not experience rest. I mean, every quiet moment was a threat. Every space where I wasn't producing or preparing or performing felt like danger. I had internalized the belief that my value was entirely conditional on my usefulness. Now, keep in mind, I wasn't aware this was happening. My nervous system and my body, my subconscious mind was working this out perfectly, beautifully, to my detriment. And the installed belief underneath all of it, what was it? The one I couldn't have told you I held because it was so deep and so old. Here, I'll just tell you. As yourself, James, you're not enough. As the real thing, without the perfection, without the performance, without the provision, without the competence, without the output, there's nothing there worth keeping. Now, I didn't know I believed that. And it was running my entire life. The work of finding freedom, in large part, was the work of going all the way down to that belief, seeing it, holding it up to the light, and discovering that it was not true, and that it had never been true, and that the self underneath all that architecture was not nothing, was, in fact, the most valuable thing I'd ever found. So the Hall moment, Hall standing for honesty aligns liberation's language. I mean, the Hall moment in this territory is the moment you distinguish between the construction and the self, the label and the self, the mask and the self. The honesty is, this is not me. This was built. I can see the seams. I can see what it was built from and why. And I separate from it in a way I could not see before. When that honesty lands, something aligns with enormous force, because for the first time, the actual self has room to be something other than the construction. The self and the survival structure are no longer the same thing. And once they're separated, the survival structure can be examined, witnessed, and evaluated, can be modified, and then put down when it's no longer needed. See, the liberation that follows is the language of the actual self, finally, having space to speak. So one question today: what is the survival structure that you built, that you've been calling yourself? Not to tear it down, just to see it as architecture rather than identity. I want you to create enough distance between you and it to ask, is this me? Or is this what I built to keep me safe? Because if you can see the difference, you have already taken the most important step. So here we are, 10 days, 10 days. 10 days of showing up, of sitting with hard things, of building the foundation for a free life. So tomorrow is 2 weeks in, almost. And I want to do something a little different. I want to stop and take inventory, because I think you may be more different than you realize. So be well, and I'll see you in the morning.